that's really important and is basically the entire reason for this video. Getting the perfect stitch starts before you've even picked up your spool of thread or your 2 needles. Punching your stitching holes can make or break your leatherworking project. Today I'm going to teach you exactly how to prick mark your leather to get the perfect stitch every single time. Today I'm going to teach you exactly how to get the perfect stitch, starting with these 3 steps. Hey friends, it's Will and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to teach you exactly how to get the perfect stitch, starting with these 3 steps. Number 1 is marking the line and lining up your pricking iron. Number 2, exactly how to hold your pricking iron so you get the best stitch every single time. And number 3 is actually punching those holes, the most important part to getting the perfect stitch. In this video, I won't be going over pricking iron sizes. I've done an entire video on that, and I'll link it in the card up here. And the pricking irons I use are the 3mm graphite set from Pro Italia Plus. I will link them in the description box below. I also won't be going into thread sizes today. It's just such a massive topic, so make sure you subscribe because I have an entire tutorial, an entire video just on thread sizes, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. So number 1 is marking your line and lining up your pricking iron. After you've glued your pieces of leather together, it's time for the very first step, and that is marking your line. I strongly recommend that you use a set of wing dividers so you have a bit of flexibility about and you can use it for other things. I personally use Osborne wing dividers, which I really love. They're very accurate and they've got really good micro adjustment, and I'll leave a link to those in the description box below. I always set my stitching line to 3mm from the edge, and this is for a couple of reasons. One is I like how far away from the edge it is. It gives it a nice amount of leather for strength between the stitches and the edge, which I really like. I also like the fact that I can use a 1.5mm creasing iron, and you have rule of thirds, which always looks really nice. So it's 1.5mm from the edge for your creasing line, and then another 1.5mm, so 3mm in total from the edge to the stitching line, which I really like. But if you want to do a 4mm, that is up to you. The great thing about leather is it is entirely your choice of how you do it. This is purely from my experience of years and years doing this. So once you've glued it together, you want to get your wing dividers and you want to run it down the side of the leather with one of the wings over the edge and the other on the leather itself. So you pull it down the leather, and this causes a line to be put in the leather. Now, you want to put enough pressure on the wing divider that you put a line on the leather. Now, don't worry, you won't see this after you've stitched because the stitch will be over this line, so you don't need to worry about marking it. But you want to mark it, but you don't want to push it down so hard that you cause damage to the leather. I have pushed down so hard in the past because I've been used to using chrome tan leather, which is harder to mark, and then I've pushed really hard on vegetable tan leather and I've actually cut the surface. So you want to be really careful when you're doing this not to damage your leather. Once we've marked the line, we're going to be using this as a guide. That's all this line is a guide of where to put your pricking irons. So this line is so that you put your pricking iron so that the tooth is halfway over, so the line is down the middle of your pricking iron. Your pricking iron so that the line that we've just marked is exactly in the middle of those teeth. It is far easier to get a straight stitching line if you're using a pricking iron with more teeth. And this is because it's easier to keep the line straight when you're punching the holes if you have more teeth. Because you always want to, as we'll get into in a minute, you always want to overlap. But when you're moving your pricking iron along, you always want to overlap by 2 teeth because this allows the line to stay nice and straight. If you're enjoying the content I'm doing, don't forget to smash the subscribe button, the like and the comment, and leave a comment down below letting me know. It makes so much difference to the channel, and I cannot keep making these videos if you guys don't subscribe. I know you're loving it because I can see in the analytics that you are absolutely loving the channel. So if you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and we can carry on with the video. Step number 2 is holding your pricking irons. This may seem completely obvious how you hold your pricking irons, but it's so important, so I'm going to cover it today. Now, there are 2 camps of how to hold your pricking irons. Number 1, put straight in front of you, and this will allow you to look down the pricking iron, so you line it up perpendicular, so you line it up parallel to the edge. Now, I used to love doing this myself. I found it easier. The second camp is you have it perpendicular to you, so that you have the edge, then you have the pricking irons like this. I used to dislike doing this. However, I have changed the way I do it recently, so you look over the top of the pricking irons, and I actually find it much easier. So whichever one you find easiest is the best way of doing it. The great thing about leather is how you find it easiest to do your best work is the best way of doing it. Once you've decided how you're going to orientate your pricking irons, you want to figure out how to hold the iron itself. Now, you can either hold it at the top, but I don't find that gives you the best stability when you're holding the pricking irons themselves. The other way of doing it is holding it, and I recommend holding it as close to the bottom as you can, so you can rest a couple of fingers on the pricking iron itself and a couple of fingers on the actual piece to keep it as stable as possible. Because when you're banging that pricking iron down through your leather, you want to keep it as stable as possible so you can keep it as vertical as possible, and we'll come on to why in a moment. Number 3 comes the main event, the coup de grace, the reason you clicked on this video, punching the holes. Never try and punch your pricking holes all the way through in one go unless your leather is like a millimeter thick or less than that. If you try and hammer through your pricking holes in one go, you have the possibility of moving that pricking iron, and it may cause your holes to go further away or closer to the edge, and it's an absolute nightmare. You have to redo the entire part of that project if this happens. It's super annoying. That's really, really, really important, and is basically the entire reason for this video. So with thinner leathers, we're talking a maximum of 4mm, or 3 or 4mm of total thickness. You can just about get through all of it in one go. Now, I've had a lot of questions asking if I punch both sides separately and then glue them together. I do. However, this is very, very difficult, and it's normally in thicker projects. If you have a thinner project, once you've glued your pieces together, you can punch all the way through, and your pricking iron holes, your stitching holes, line up really, really well. Now, if you have a thicker piece, or you have skived it so it's not straight, it's doing that, when you punch it, it can go inward, so you have a really, really big gap from the edge to the hole, from the edge to the stitching hole, and it's really, really, really annoying. I've messed up projects in the past. I have a video where I screwed up an entire wallet because I was being stupid. The other way of doing it is you have the 2 pieces of leather, you prick mark both of them, and then you glue them together. You have to be really, really careful with this, because if your holes are not in exactly the same place, and you don't have exactly the same number of holes, you will get a wavy piece because you're trying to line up the holes on both sides, and it will actually cause your edge to be all wavy. So it's really, really difficult. Take your time if you're going to do this. However, I will leave this decision, how many layers of leather you want to stitch together, you want to punch all in one go, to you. because I do not want to be responsible for you fucking up your project, trying to punch too much leather all in one go. So if you want to do it that way, more power to you. Take your time, make sure that your holes are lined up perfectly, and you might just about do it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because next week I'm going to be doing an entire video just on getting the perfect stitch both front and back on your project, because I get loads and loads of comments asking me, how do I get the perfect stitch on the back? Why is my stitch not looking great on the front? What is a cast? So don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because that video is coming up next week and I cannot wait to show you exactly how to get the perfect stitch. Have a fantastic weekend.